Would you pray with me, please? Oh God, what a holy time to be as we move ever closer to the cross and the tomb. Open our hearts just as you opened that tomb. But open them not so that Jesus is out. Open them so that Jesus comes in. Write upon our hearts your words, so that the meditations of all of our hearts would be pleasing in your sight this day and forever. Amen. Nine years before Joey and I got our present dog, we had another dog. We had Flash the Wonder Dog. Actually, Flash had us, because I jokingly, maybe not so jokingly, say that Flash allowed Joey and I to live with him for 13 years. His real name was Shadow, and we named him that as a puppy because he was your shadow. You could go nowhere without that dog right behind you. And it was 9 years between dogs because we never thought we would have another one as good as Flash. And if you can tell, Flash was a basset hound. Flash, I bought him for my children, and that's where I figured out children lie to you. Right? One of the greatest lies of childhood is honest dad will take care of it. But it ended up being Julie's dog. When I was out playing policeman, Julie was at home with it all the time, and it was a good dog. It was a good dog for her. It was a companionship for her, and her and the dog hit it off really well. The way that I treated the dog, and the way that I ignored the dog, and the way that I talked about the dog, you'd have thought I hated the dog. That we just kind of tolerated one another. The trouble is, the dog would listen to no one but me. This dog could be outside, and he did it quite regularly, and my wife and children would be hollering for him to come in, and he would ignore them. All I had to do was go to the back door and yell, "Hey, dummy!" And he would run to the door. I mean, he would respond to my voice. That's all I had. I think he thought his name was Dummy, which means that I probably called him that too often. But then, when he would listen to everybody else, but if I said, "Hey, Dummy," he'd be right beside me. You could get him so riled up, and I did it on numerous occasions, because I thought I was his personal trainer. But I would get him to the point where his teeth would be bared, and he would be nipping at me. All I had to do was say, "Stop," and he immediately stopped what he was doing and would start licking at me. Just a neat dog. He listened to everything that I said and responded very well. Because he knew my voice. He knew that I cared. I'm the one that got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and let him out. Now that's my own fault because I got up at the time at 5 o'clock to go to work, and he didn't know the difference between Monday through Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And he would come into the bedroom and shake his head so violently that those big ears of fat would sound like a helicopter landing in your bedroom. But I took him, I fed him, I let him out, I let him in. He knew my voice and he knew that I cared. That's why he responded. You could be in a crowd with all kinds of people, and if I spoke, he heard that voice. What I want to suggest to you, and the reason I tell you about that, is this. I think we, as we talk about this discipleship piece, I want to tell you, we all need to become Flash the Wonder Christian. Now, I'm not calling you dogs. I'm not calling you by any means dogs. But I think, well, I don't think, I know that to be what God calls us to be, we have to be able to hear that voice of Jesus Christ in our lives and respond. We have to be Flash the Wonder Christian. Matter of fact, I don't call you dogs because Jesus didn't call you dogs. Jesus called you sheep. which I got news for you, are dumber than dogs. The passage that you heard Glenn read to you a little bit ago is the first part of chapter 10 of the book of John. And Jesus is launching into one of his I am sayings. I think there's 8 of them in the book. I am the good shepherd. And he talks about sheep and shepherds because the people at the time would have known. Sheep were all over the place. Okay, this wasn't John Wayne's restaurant where the sheep herders and the ranchers were separate. Sheep was a common commodity in the Middle East at the time, and I think still are. They made livelihoods off of those animals. They used their wool and their meat. So even if they weren't a shepherd and they heard Jesus talking, they at least knew someone was a shepherd and knew about sheep. And they knew that sheep were dumb. They knew that sheep can't even find the grass in the pasture. You have to lead them to where you want them to eat. Sheep don't know how to get down to the creek to drink. You got to take them there. Sheep don't know enough to come in off the rain. So if you don't want a bunch of smelly wool, you better get them back to the shed. Sheep are docile animals. They won't protect themselves from predators. That's the shepherd's job, where the wolves would eat them all. So when Jesus uses this to launch into this part of his message, that's what he's saying. He says, you're all sheep, and you are all dependent on somebody, and that's me. I am the good shepherd. I'll take care of you. I'll make sure that you get thirst. Your thirst will be quenched forever. I'll make sure you get the bread of heaven for all of eternity. I'll make sure that you're safe. I'll do all that. I'm your shepherd. You hear how many times in that one passage he says, my sheep know my voice and respond. Matter of fact, he makes it pretty clear in that passage that you heard read that there's a whole bunch of people out there that want to be your shepherd. But I like the way he said it. They're just in it for the money. They're just in it because they get a paycheck. As soon as the first sign of trouble comes along, they're gone. Jesus says, not me, I'll die for you. That's the kind of shepherd I am. I'll die for you, he says. If you know my voice. If you're in my flock. I'll take care of you. He says, my sheep know me and I know them. And oh, by the way, we're not done gathering sheep. Did you catch that part too? There's a whole lot more out there that we're going to go after, he says. Fast forward later in the day. Because I want to share with you a second part of that. And I'm going to pick up at verse 22. It says it was now winter and Jesus was in Jerusalem at the time of Hanukkah, the festival of dedication. He was in the temple walking through the section known as Solomon's Colonnade. The people surrounded him and asked, how long are you going to keep us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, tell us plainly. Jesus replied, I've already told you, and you don't believe it. The proof is the work I do in my Father's name. But you don't believe me because you are not my sheep. My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life, and they will never perish. No one can snatch them away from me. For my Father has given them to me, and he is more powerful than anyone else. No one can snatch them from the Father's hand. The Father and I are one. In the first part of that chapter, Jesus told them who he was. Now he tells them why you need to listen. Why you need to follow me. And he's out on the Solomon's Colonnade was a long porch on the east side of the temple with, I'm guessing they call it colonnades because it had those isn't that what those are called? Columns? Okay. I'm not an archaeologist, I mean an architect, so I don't know. And he's been there before. Whenever he's in town, he preaches and he teaches from there, and the people are gathered around him. And he's been in ministry for a couple years by the time of this passage. And remember, he just shared with them this thing about, I am the good shepherd, etc., etc., etc. And we reading it today have no trouble understanding that he's saying, I'm Jesus Christ. But these people, this day going, you know what? We're tired of the stories. We're tired of you beating around the bush. Just tell us, are you the Messiah? Are you the one that all of our prophets have said are coming? Are you the one that's going to put Israel back in its place as the powerful people of God? Are you the one that's going to get us out from underneath the oppressions of the Romans and everybody else that's picking on us? Are you Him? We don't want any more of this sheep stuff. Are you the Messiah? Are you the Son of God? I love the way Jesus operates. Because He didn't come around and ask him, did He? Or answer, He says, I've already told you. Have you been paying attention? You already have the answer. I've been preaching. I've been teaching. I've been doing miracles in front of you. I've been healing people in front of it. If you were listening, you'd already know the answer to that one. Gee, the Father and I are one. How much more do I have to tell you? And He says, you don't get it. Because you don't hear what I'm saying. You're not my sheep. You don't know my voice. You've been listening to too many other voices. That's why you don't know. That's why you have to ask me the question. Not only am I Him, but if you put your faith and your trust in me, if you do get to know my voice, if you do follow me, if you do realize that God and I are the same, you're pretty safe. Not only does it say eternal life, it says once God has you, nobody else can have you. You're safe in His hands. Nobody can snatch you away from God. You don't have to worry about telephone scams that steal you away from Jesus Christ. It doesn't work that way. That's why He says, you ought to be paying attention. The Pharisees won't do that for you. Sitting in the temple every day won't do that for you. Following all those commandments won't do that for you. Being one of my flock is what does that for you, He says. And I operate in the power of God Almighty. Isn't that what He's saying when He says the Father and I are one? Listen to my voice. Flash paid attention because he knew who his leader was. Flash knew who it was that let him out. Flash knew who it was that put food in his bowl at night. Flash knew who it was that put water in him when he was thirsty. Flash knew who it was that would give him exercise when he was feeling ornery. Shouldn't we be the same way with God? Shouldn't we be a little smarter than Flash? Why would you not put your trust in this leader? Why would you not become one of the sheep of Jesus Christ if He's the Good Shepherd? Don't we have the same thing? We know that He cares for us. We know that He's going to get us through a crisis. We know that if we follow His teachings, that we don't have to worry because God's a much better worrier than we are. We know that no matter what befalls us, it'll be okay in the end, no matter how it turns out. That's what we get with this leader if we listen to His voice and follow Him. Let me give you another reason as we approach Good Friday. I put my trust in Him. He's my leader for another reason besides all that. He's my leader because I know of no other leader that gave up all the privileges of heaven and put on sheep clothing like me. I know of nobody else that became a human being and put on skin and lived and suffered just like I do. Do you? I don't know of anybody else who would be my shepherd that would allow themselves to go through the misery that He did one Friday afternoon. I know of no one else, no other leader. I don't care whether they're elected, voted, whatever, however they got to be my leader. None of them have put up with what Jesus Christ put up with to be my leader. None of them were stripped naked and humiliated like He was. None of them wore a crown of thorns piercing His head. None of them was humiliated like He was. None of them was stood in front of the very church people that he came to save and heard them call for his head. None of them carried their cross up the hill and allowed themselves to be nailed to it. None of them died for anybody except Jesus Christ. Died for me. With my sins on his back. I'm thinking that's a pretty good leader. I'm thinking that's a leader that deserves me to listen. I think that's a leader who I want to be my shepherd. I think that's a leader whose voice I'm willing to listen to. So my question for you today is pretty easy. Who's your leader? Who is it that you follow? Whose voice do you recognize? And maybe that's a better question. Do you know that leader? And I don't mean know that leader, I mean know that leader. I can know all about Jesus Christ, but do you know him? Because that's when you start hearing voices. And not the kind you need medication for. Talking about the one that speaks to you from the Holy Spirit. That's when I can respond to his voice, to his leadings, to know what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to live. Do you hear that voice? Do you live with that voice? Do you pick his voice out of all the other voices that are clamoring for your attention in this world today? Do you follow him and ignore the others? Let me ask it this way. Are you smarter than Flash? To be a disciple, to have discipline, means to know your leader and to follow that leader. It means to do it knowing that it's not a straight path, that there are curves and hills and dips, that there are rocks and rivers and everything else that you'll be going through and around and over as you walk that path. But it's also knowing that the one in front of you or beside you is the true leader and will keep you safe while you travel that path. That's who I will follow. Now somebody's going to push me over the edge as soon as we get close to it. I want to listen for his voice. I want to follow it all the way to the cross, to where we can lay down all of our misgivings and our sins. But the neat thing about this shepherd, you don't stop at the cross. Because behind the cross is an open tomb. And if I listen to his voice, if I follow that shepherd, guess what? Someday I'll see my own tomb open. And I'm guessing the next pastor is greener than anything I can imagine here. What about you? You want to be a sheep? Come join the flock. Amen. Let's pray. Well, God, thank you for your love. Thank you for the love that caused you to lay down your life for your sheep. Now allow us to follow you. Help us to discern your voice among all the others that interfere with us. Help us. Help us to be the kind of sheep you want to lead. Make us disciples, not just takers. And I pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen.